whatever credibility you had left just went sailing right out the window. Sup peeps, Saw here. Now, I literally just got done watching the Game Award nominations for the Game Awards 2024. Now, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, a DLC that requires you to be at least level 100 in the base Elden Ring game, you can't play it on its own, is up for Game of the Year. Now, you may be wondering, why is this a bad thing? I'm going to explain why. And I want to warn you in advance. This video is going to be very loud and very sweary, because this has annoyed me to my absolute core. I actually feel physically sick that this is a thing that's even happening. Okay, for years, there's always been a rule that states DLCs and remasters are ineligible for Game of the Year. Now, miraculously, because Elden Ring has a DLC out, magically now, that rule doesn't matter anymore. Okay, the Game of the Year nominees, okay? You have Astrobot, which deserves to be there. Balatro, I think it's Balatro, but deserves to be there. Black Myth Wukong deserves to be there. Metaphor Refantagio, which definitely deserves to be there. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which, despite my issues with it, deserves to be there. And then you have Shadow of the Erdtree. Now, I know, personally, I'm torn between voting for Astrobot and Metaphor because I love both those games. But the problem is, what's the point of me even voting when I already know exactly how this is going to go? It is 10% gamer chosen and 90% jury. If the jury has chosen a DLC to win Game of the Year, this industry is doomed. Now, you may be thinking, oh, I'm overreacting. Having a DLC up for Game of the Year is a mockery. You're basically saying a DLC was actually better than most games that came out this year. You're basically saying that a DLC is of an equal quality to other games, to 4 games that came out this year. Also, last I checked, it was called fucking Game of the Year, not DLC of the Year. DLC has no business being nominated for Game of the Year, no matter how fucking good it is. Because you want to know something? A DLC is downloadable content, meaning it is an expansion for a pre-existing game. A game which already won Game of the Year 2 fucking years ago. You really think that having a DLC up for Game of the Year is a good thing? Because it's fucking not. Having a DLC up for Game of the Year is, God forbid it actually fucking wins. Because if it actually wins, it's going to set a very bad precedent. Imagine, right, you're a developer who's worked 3 or 4 years, however long, on a game. And you've got all this critical praise, right? All this praise you can get. And you think, oh great, the Game Awards are coming up. This is our big chance. And you get snubbed for a piece of DLC for a game that released 2 goddamn years ago. I'm sorry, but if you are happy that and agree that a DLC should be up for Game of the Year, get the fuck out of here with that shit. a DLC has no business being up for Game of the Year. Because once you allow DLC, if you're going to allow, okay, you allow DLC up for Game of the Year then. I noticed it was also the only DLC that was considered for Game of the Year. Funny how you didn't consider, what was it called? The DLC for Cyberpunk. You've never once considered the DLC for a game for Game of the Year before. Ever. Now suddenly it's happening. Elden Ring released it. Now suddenly, yeah. Do you want to know the hilarious thing about this though? You've kind of fucked yourselves over by putting Black Myth Wukong there. Because there are people who are going to vote for that to win just to spite you. Because you are trying to, media were boycotting that game. Now here's the thing. You've basically already made it quite evident that you have no intention of having anything but Elden Ring in that. I'm going to personally probably be voting for either Astrobot or Metaphor. Okay? I'm probably going to vote for one of those two. The issue is, now that I think about it, I might vote for Astrobot because I think it has more of a chance of winning it. But here's the thing. If the DLC wins Game of the Year, you will have made a mockery of this industry. Because you would basically be saying at that point that none of the games that came out this year were good enough. You didn't give the nod to Silent Hill 2. So a piece of DLC is good enough to be up for Game of the Year, but a remake isn't. Where do you draw the fucking line? Also, it's called Game of the Year. This is a piece of fucking DLC. And what's pissing me off is I already know for a fact it's going to win. DLC, a piece of DLC for a game is going to win Game of the Year at the Game Awards. The biggest award show for gaming in the year. And I hate it. If you think that a DLC being up for Game of the Year is fine, you need help. And I don't want to hear it has more content than most AAA games. I don't give a flying fuck. It could be 1,000,000 fucking hours for all I give a shit. It shouldn't be up for it because it is not. First of all, it's not a standalone product. You need a game from 2 years ago to even access it, and then you need to be at least level fucking 100 in that game to access it anyway. Meaning, it's inaccessible to most people. Not only that, you've basically just thrown Astrobot and Metaphor, the two highest rated games of the year and the two best games of this year, out there to fucking get slaughtered by a piece of DLC. And for what? How much were you paid, Jeff? What were you being paid by FromSoft and Bandai Namco to put that in there? Because I'm supposed to sit here and believe, but a jury thought a piece of DLC was eligible to be up for Game of the Year. Okay then. So if another game releases a piece of DLC next year, that's the highest rated piece of gaming of that year, will that be up for it? Because I bet you it won't. You've literally done a rule exemption here. You've nominated a piece of DLC for 4 things. And you know for a fact it's going to win probably all of them. So you've actually basically thrown games that people worked fucking years on to the wolves just so you can get a big fat fucking payday. And you knew what you were doing. You fucking knew what you were doing, you geek, when you fucking stood and you read those out and you said, the jury, which I am not a part of, you knew it was going to be fucking controversial having it there. That's why you fucking said that. The other 5 deserve to be there. I haven't played Black Myth Wukong, but from what I've heard, it's a really... The people that have played it, that love it, really love it. So it must be good. Metaphor is my current obsession. That's what I'm playing when I'm not recording for the channel. And I am in love with that game. I adore that game. Astro, you guys know what I think of that game. You guys know I think that game is a masterpiece. Rebirth, despite my issues with it, despite my issues with Rebirth, it deserves to be there. But none of them are going to have a chance. If, come the Game Awards, if a piece of DLC wins Game of the Year, I am never watching the Game Awards ever again. Because you will have lost. You've already just now lost all the credibility that you had. You can't... Here's the thing, Jeff. You want to know why people don't take your Game Awards fucking seriously? People don't take your Game Awards seriously because you keep changing the goddamn rules to fit your personal agenda. You keep changing the rule. This game is ineligible. This game is ineligible because it's not story driven. But it's the highest rated game of the year. This game is ineligible because it's DLC, but then suddenly a DLC is eligible. Where was this thinking last year with Phantom Liberty? This is the thing. What you've basically done is you've basically just told people it's okay to release a DLC instead of a new game because it will do well. If it wins, you want to know the ripple effect this will cause? If it wins, you will see developers half-ass their games even more and then use we got all this content for DLC that was originally in the base game. That's what the excuse will be. You will see developers deliberately chop out gigantic chunks from a game just to make a DLC in the hopes, oh, Elden Ring got nominated for Game of the Year with DLC, why can't we? I'm going to be brutally honest. I already know every vote that I make at these awards is going to be wasted. Because I know any game, any award that Shadow of the Erdtree is up for, is going to win. Metaphor has no chance of winning Best RPG. Astro and Metaphor have no chance of winning Game of the Year. But you want to know something? If you watch me, okay, if you watch my content and you are going to vote for what games get nominated, for what games win at the Game Awards, okay, you're going to actually vote. If you care about the precedent staying the way it is and games not being even more half-assed, and you care about the integrity of this industry, I beg of you to vote for anything other than Shadow of the Erdtree. And don't, if you're a fucking FromSoft fan, do not fucking attack me for saying this, because the fucking fact of the matter is, if you genuinely think a DLC is a fucking Game of the Year contender when it's a DLC for a game that already swept the awards once, your opinion is invalidated to me. Because you clearly don't play enough games to have an informed opinion. I beg you to vote for anything other than it. Because if a DLC wins Game of the Year, the awards will then basically cease to have any meaning at all. They've already lost most of their meaning by what they did with 2020. This has got 2020 repeat written all over it. It does. Hell, it even has one of the same franchises within it, Final Fantasy. A DLC is going to win Game of the Year. And there's nothing we can do about it. There is literally nothing we can do about it. But just imagine if you were a game developer and you've worked hard on a game for years and you've got your moment in the spotlight and you're like, yes, this is my time to shine. And that spot gets taken by a fucking DLC for a game 2 years ago. It's not, I repeat what I said. It is not a standalone product. You need to not only own the base Elden Ring game to play it, but you also have to be at least level fucking 100 to access it. Meaning, it's inaccessible to most people. The only people who have access to it are people who are good at that game and are obsessed with that game. I repeat what I said. A DLC has no business being there. And it'll be a repeat of 2020, except it'll be worse. Because say what the fuck you want. Say whatever the fucking hell you want. Okay? Say whatever you want about The Last of Us Part 2 sweeping the 2020 awards. At least that was a standalone product. At least that was a game that stood on its own goddamn merit. You know? At least that stood on its own fucking merit. This doesn't. This is a piece of DLC for a game that released 2 years ago. This is why nobody takes these awards seriously. Because of shit like this. You have all these celebrities come to the awards, you let them speak for 20 minutes, while meanwhile the people who are winning these awards get 30 fucking seconds. That's a fucking disgrace. Every single year that you put on these fucking, sorry excuse for a fucking awards, you piss on the industry more and more. Last year it was by being disrespectful to them. Remember when Larian were accepting the award for Game of the Year for Baldur's Gate 3, and the CEO was talking, the lead dev was talking about members of their team that had died during the development of the game. Do you remember what Jeff had them do? Can you wrap it up? While he was talking about their fucking fallen fucking colleagues. And now you have a slap in the face to fucking these hardworking devs by putting a fucking piece of goddamn DLC up for Game of the fucking Year. Do you have any integrity? And all you say is, I'm not a part of the jury. It's your fucking show. You put the fucking show together, so you decide the categories. I'm sick of you saying you don't have any input. It's your show. You get the venues. You decide the categories. You must have some fucking input as to what gets nominated for what. You must do. It's your show. And you must have known when you announced these, this was going to be controversial because you stood there and said, which I'm not a part of. So in other words, it's my show, but don't blame me for changing the rules. You decide these rules. It's your show, therefore you decide the rules. You were the person who made this happen by changing that rule. You changed that rule knowing this would happen. You changed that rule knowing this would be up for it. And you're going to stand there when that award happens. You're going to stand there, have some celebrity who you're going to have stand there and try and make us laugh for 20 minutes when we don't give a shit, open that envelope, and they're not going to say the game of the year is Astrobot. The game of the year is Metaphor Refantasio. Well, he didn't even say that right. The game of the year is Black Myth Wukong. It's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's Balatro. It's not going to say any of that. It's going to say, game of the year is Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. And you will pan to that crowd. And you will see looks of disgust and devastation on their faces. Because what you're basically saying is, people's hard work that they've worked on for years isn't valued at your awards anymore, but a piece of DLC, which is just an expansion for another game that released 2 years ago, is. And I know what's going to happen. You're going to have gamers in the know that understand what's going on here boo that game anytime it gets announced. Congratulations, Jeff. You've just turned a game, which is one of the most beloved games of recent memory, into public enemy number 1. That's what you've just done. You did this with The Last of Us in 2020. You took a game that people loved and made people hate it. Now, you've taken another game that people love and you've made people hate it. Except this time, it's fucking worse. Because at least The Last of Us Part 2 was a standalone product. And I know by making this video, I'm probably going to lose subscribers over this because I'm getting pissed off about this announcement. I'm pissed off about it, not because of the fact that, oh, it's up for a pointless award. I'm pissed off about it because I know the precedent that's going to be set and the ripple effect it's going to have if it actually fucking wins. And you want to know something? What terrifies me, what absolutely terrifies me, is it actually might. That's what terrifies me. It actually might win it. People are going to look back on it and they're going to be like, oh, remember 2024 when a DLC won Game of the Year? I'm still going to vote. I would encourage you all to vote as well. Just don't vote for this. Vote for whatever the hell you want to vote for. As long as it's not this. Because as much as I'd love Astro or Metaphor to walk away with the game, or even Rebirth, I wouldn't care what if any of the other 5 games win that Game of the Year award. Because to me, the other 5 fucking deserve it. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree does not. And if you're a From Software fan, don't come in my comments trying to defend this shit. Go to the fucking Game Awards comment section and defend that shit. Because I don't want to fucking hear it. A DLC should never be up for Game of the Year, no matter how good it is. Because it is not a game. It is an expansion to a pre-existing game. This is a fucking disgrace. And Jeff Keighley, you have just successfully made your award show an even bigger fucking joke and waste of time than it already fucking was. And I will do, and I'm just going to say this. I told you so. It's going to win it. And there's fucking nothing that we can do about it. It shouldn't be this way. DLC has no business being up for an award, for a Game of the Year award. And it's going to end up winning it. It should be Metaphor, or Astro, or Rebirth, or Wukong. It should be any of those, but it won't be. It won't be any of those. It won't be. I told you I'd get very loud. Now I'm going to go and have a lay down, and I'm probably going to sit and play some more Metaphor to unwind, or Astro to unwind. You know, games that actually deserve to be in that category that they're in. If you like what you saw, smack the like button, notification button, smash subscribe. Sora signing out, guys. Peace. And Jeff Keighley, you're a fucking joke.